Lesson 8.3, Video 5. Now let's apply it to a three-dimensional shape. We're going to talk about surface area and volume. We've already talked about the relationship with scale factor and distance. So again, let's see how it relates to surface area and volume. So let's talk about the original shape, or in other words, the old shape. The surface area is found by taking, this is one formula, it'd be 2 times 2 dimensions, which is, let's say, length and width, 2 and 5. And then, because there's 2 sides that are with those dimensions. And then you would have 2 times another pair of dimensions, which would be base and height, so 5 and 4. And then you have one more pair of dimensions, which would be 4 and 10, which is base and height, or length and height. That result is 220 units squared. The volume is length times width times height, or however you want to label it. And that gives you 200 units cubed. So those are the original surface area and volume. So in geometry in the past, we've talked about how things are affected, okay, when it comes to length, area, or volume. So the units, let's talk about that briefly. The units for one dimension is length, and we'll call that K. 2 dimensions, in other words area, we will say is K squared. And 3 dimensions, which is volume, is your K cubed. Now this should be familiar from past lessons in geometry. Now what if your box was twice as large? Well, how does that affect this? Now if you say twice as large, you're talking about K being 2. So given that K is 2, the distance, okay, if I just want to find a distance of anything, it would be doubled, okay, so just times 2. But area, if you notice again, area is K squared. So I would take the surface area, which we know is 220, and I'm going to take that not times 2 because the units are squared. I would take that times 4. In other words, 2 squared. So up here, I'm going to say if K is 2, then K squared is 4, and K cubed is 8. So the surface area, if you take the original of 220 times 4, you get 880 units squared. If you take the volume of 200, you would not take that times 4 because that's area. You wouldn't take it times 2 because that's length. You could take it times 8 because the units are cubed, so you would cube K. And that would give you 1,600 units cubed. What if the box were 1/4 smaller? Okay, so in this case K is 1/4. So K squared would be 1/16, and K cubed would be 1/64. So surface area, again, which is 220, we would take it times 1/16 because it's area, so K squared, and that's the same as 220 divided by 16, which reduces down, and we'll just leave it like this, 55/4. units squared. Volume is 200 times 1 over 64, because you have to find k cubed, which is equal to 200 divided by 64, and that reduces down to 25/8 units cubed. So what pattern do we see? Well, in closing, we're talking about if k is length, if we're going to find a difference in length with a scale factor, it would be multiplied by k, but if we're talking about area, we would have to use k squared, and if we're talking about volume, we would have to use k cubed. So very similar to past lessons. And this ends lesson 8.3, video 5.